Chapter 21 The Horned Hounds. At first, Janner and Tink could see nothing but darkness. Then they realized they were in a wide, empty room with stone walls. A once elegant staircase led upward, into the light of the roofless upper level. Rubble, old wooden beams, and scraggly weeds covered the floor. Everything of value had long since been plundered, but the faded glory of the manor was apparent. It wasn't hard to imagine dinner parties long ago with well-dressed men and women ascending and descending the wide staircase, or eerie laughter echoing in the huge, empty rooms, or Brimney's stoop, whoever he was, strolling through the corridors of the mansion at night with a candle held above his head. It was not hard to imagine, in other words, that there were ghosts. Did you say something? Jenner asked, his nervous voice echoing in the room. No. Did you hear something? Tink whispered. No. Did you? Only you, asking if I said something. Then why did you ask? Because you did. Jenner stepped carefully through the debris of the main room and peeked through the doorways that led deeper into the house. He led the way back to the kitchen area, where the ceiling was gone and the sunlight made them feel much more comfortable. Tink poked around in the empty cupboards while Janner peeked under fallen beams, hoping to find some hint of the treasure Oscar had mapped. Just as Janner began to relax, Tink began to think he might like to visit more often. A crackling noise sounded from just outside the kitchen window. The Igby brothers froze. It was the same sound they had made when they walked through the brambles around the house. Something was outside, and it was getting nearer. Jenner held his breath and put a finger to his lips. He motioned for Tink to follow. Quiet as mice, they tiptoed back to the front entrance of the manor and peeked out the door. Across the yard, a gray creature was sniffing the bench where they had sat. It looked exactly like a dog, except for two tusks jutting upward from its snout and a dangerous-looking horn that crowned its head, and the fact that it stood at least as tall as Janner. A horned hound, Janner realized. Don't move, he whispered. Tink stood perfectly still, but it had been hours since he'd eaten. We really should have brought something to eat, he thought. The sight of the stone bench reminded Tink of the inscription on it, which reminded him of Brimney's stoop enjoying his soup, which reminded Tink that he hadn't eaten a thing since they left the cottage that day. His stomach rumbled loudly. Janner froze in horror as the hound looked directly at the boys standing just inside the house. It raised its horned head and howled a piercing, hungry howl. Then it whirled and bore straight toward them. Quick! Janner said, bolting through a doorway on their left. In the distance, an awful chorus of other howls answered the first. Janner could think of nothing to do but move further into the manor and hope to find some place to hide from the hounds. The doorway led to a long hallway, where occasionally holes in the ceiling allowed for thin shafts of sunlight. The hall was lined with doors on either side, so Janner picked one at random and pulled Tink after him. Outside, the howls grew in volume and number. Psst! There's another door, Tink said. In the rear of the room was a doorway, smaller than the first, leading to an even deeper darkness. Come on, it's dark, so stay close, Janner said, running to the doorway. He stepped through, into empty air. Tink caught Janner by the shirt and pulled him back. Janner gasped and steadied himself on the doorframe. Tink dropped to his knees and reached down into the opening, hoping for steps or a ladder. There were none. This is a dead end, Janner said. Come on! But their way was barred. Standing in the doorway from which they had come was the dim shape of a horned hound. The only sound in the room was the creature's panting. Its hungry eyes glistened in the dark, and a low growl filled the room. The hound stepped forward, and two more of the horned beasts appeared in the doorway behind it. So this is what the map meant by pain and woe, huh? Tink said, his voice shaking like a leaf in the storm. Jenner thought about his duty as the eldest. Only days ago, Lily nearly died at the hands of a fang because he hadn't paid attention. Now this. Why can't I be like our father? He wondered. He died in the Great War, trying to protect those he loved. For one shameful moment, Janner felt a flash of anger at Tink for talking him into coming to Ankle Jelly Manor in the first place. Why should I be the one to risk my life for my little brother when it's his fault we're here in the first place? Janner was tired of bearing the responsibility for his brother's folly, and he wanted to forget Tink and to run for his life. Maybe he could push his way past the hounds, find a better place to hide in the mansion. Maybe the idea to flee was only a brief thought. Janner knew he couldn't, leave his little brother behind. He could hear Poto's raspy voice in his mind. Part of being a man is taking much care of those you love. The first hound in the doorway twitched. Jenner felt it more than he saw it, and he knew that it was about to spring. Without another thought, he stepped between Tink and the beasts, spun his little brother around, and shoved him through the doorway. Tink screamed as he fell, and Jenner heard the beasts lunging their hot breath on his neck as he too leapt into blackness.